Hello friends, welcome back to another Sunday special. My name is Nick, and on my channel I talk all about trading Forex and stocks occasionally as well. Today we're going to be taking a look at the markets and the week ahead. I do this every Sunday. I go through markets like the US dollar, crosses, and gold and things like that. And we're going to talk about sort of my outlook for the week ahead. So if you're new here, make sure to do me a big favor and subscribe to the channel down below. And if you like these Sunday videos and you want to see them continue, make sure to like as well. So with that said, let's get right into it. Next week, or I guess this week now, this week doesn't have an incredibly busy week like we saw last week. However, there still is the potential for some market moves to occur. I believe on Thursday, I might be wrong about that, but I do know that we have ECB monetary policy, which has the potential to move euro pairs, right? Anytime that you have a central bank discussing something, it has the potential to move their respective currency. So the ECB, or the European Central Bank, is meeting this week, which has potentially some hawkish or dovish movements for the euro crosses. So with that said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through a couple different markets. I would like to start with the DXY, as it was such a hot topic last week as the dollar roared back to the highs towards the end of the week. You can see we are taking a look at the daily chart, and if we pop on a moving average here, you can see that we are in fact now above the 200-day simple moving average for the US dollar. You can kind of see price broke out of it, came back and sort of retested the zone, and then found a lot of demand from there. Now, where we sit, I still think that we have upside for the dollar. We have, like I said, we've cleared the 200-day moving average. And from a technical analysis perspective, this thing has been forming nice higher lows. So going into this week, I am bullish on the dollar. I think it has potential to break out here and continue this push that it has been doing. I think a natural place for price to retest is 93.4, which of course is the previous high that we made here in April. So, or I guess that's late March. But the idea here being that we are in a state of momentum on the US dollar. A lot of the US dollar crosses have been strengthening for the USD, and we are seeing, like I said, those higher lows across the higher time frames, as well as some of the lower time frames as well. So the dollar looks strong. The dollar looks like it has potential to move up here. So let's go take a look at some of the individual crosses. I just was looking at EURUSD, so let's actually go do that one and take a look here. So the euro dollar has a couple things I wanted to point out about it. Number one is that if you look in the higher time frames, you do have this lower high coming in hot. You also have this thing underneath the 200-day moving average. Now, this is higher time frame analysis. I'm looking at the daily chart. I'm not looking at the 1 hour or the 15-minute chart. I'm looking at the higher time frames first before dropping it down a little bit lower. So the idea here is we are underneath the 200-day moving average. That is sort of a bearish signal for me. We also have been seeing the US dollar overall looking pretty hawkish. Recently, we've had a little bit of dovishness from the Fed, talking about, resisting the idea of tapering, although we've had a lot of pressure from different places to begin that process. They are pushing back on that. So that's really going to be in the sights for the US dollar bulls or bears, is to see, will the Fed shake that off? Will it continue to shrug off inflation concerns, or is that going to become a bigger problem? Well, for the euro, from a technical analysis perspective, I would say that things are looking pretty bearish as well. You've got lower highs coming in here ever since we formed that high back in mid-May, where we saw, prices shoot all the way up to this point. We failed to make a higher high for the year, right? Which was a big deal. And then we saw a massive sell-off. So if we start marking some levels here, I do think that we could find some support down below at 1.175. Which is just a bit lower. So maybe we do see the Euro USD do one more shoot to the downside here this week. I am currently short on this currency pair. I've got a good trade on right now, so we'll see if that one can continue. By the way, all of the trades that I take are shared inside of our Discord. Here is the trade that I mentioned. So I called this one out to members inside of the Discord. Here it is. I said I went short on the Euro USD after this fake out to the upside, basically jumped in there, liked the price action on the lower time frames, and ended up taking the trade. So far, looking good, and now even looking to potentially trail stops from here. By the way, if you're not already in our Discord, we are doing a 25% off sale. If you'd like to join it, if you'd like to see the trades that I am taking, as well as join our chat rooms, see the other trades being taken by some of our other members or other lead traders here like Frank and Patrick. We also do a weekly forecast report, which is basically an in-depth fundamental analysis. If you're confused by fundamentals, we've got a team that is working to put that out each week for you guys as well in the weekly forecast and research sections of the group. So if you're you're not already in the Discord, like I said, that 25% off sale, there is a link down below. It's the first link in the description. If you would like to join us, check it out, and maybe we'll see some of you guys in there and trading along with us. So with the euro, I do think, like I said, I think a natural place for price to go would be a move down to 1.175. And so from there, maybe we see a bit of a bounce, but overall, I'm still looking to see if that dollar strength can continue. It's been a little bit choppy, a little bit slow recently, but we will see if DXY can get a push and some of these crosses can move. So let's go on to our next one, which is going to be GBPUSD. Taking a look here at the pound, and look at the pound. The pound sold off hard towards the end of the week, which was a really, really big thing. I pointed out this level on the lower time frames on my streams. I talked about this little 4-hour pattern that we were seeing. So let's zoom in here so we can get a little better look at this. So check it out. We had this little pattern where we were seeing higher lows coming into the market, but I mentioned on my streams to the people who were bearish on the pound dollar, I said, watch for a close outside of this, because that could lead us right on back down to 1.37. And that is exactly what we're seeing now. We had this 3-bar candle, beautiful sell pattern there. And to me, looks like it has more downside to come down to 1.37, if not even lower. So the pound dollar looks fairly weak to me right now. Again, very much going to depend on what the Fed does and what the monetary policy statements or anything that is upcoming looks like. Although we had a lot of that this week, which, obviously the dollar strengthened off of the back of that, but we saw some of the other currencies strengthen as well. We saw the yen get a little bit stronger this week or this past week. So maybe we'll talk about that next. But for me, the dollar here being very strong, pushing against the pound. The pound was once, trading up here at 1.42 even, and now all the way down to 1.375. So really, really taking a nice chunk to the downside. And like I said, the next wave here is really to see if price can break underneath levels like 1.3755. And if it starts breaking that, you're talking about potentially bigger breakouts on the higher time frames. Because if we scroll out, we look at the daily chart, we do have major support. We have to give credit to the bulls here who are watching the pound dollar. This is a serious level to contend with. So if we do come into that area, you may find a lot of buyers who are willing to step up. So for sellers out there, be aware of that. Don't, get too optimistic when you see a major level like this of support. A lot of times you do get some form of buy pressure in that region. We kind of saw it here, but it does look like price is headed back down to retest a little bit deeper into that zone. So my thoughts on the pound dollar is, hey, we're probably going to go retest that 1.37 mark. Please remember, with all of these things that I'm saying, I can be wrong. I'm not always right. As a trader, you don't have to be always right. You just have to be right often enough and let your winners win and your losers cut them short. That's really kind of been the biggest trick when it comes to trading, in my view. Not even a trick, it's just a principle. But that's the pound dollar. I do like the idea of more downside here next week. Could see a bit more there and maybe even try to make a stab lower. I would watch, if you're a higher time frame trader, if you're looking at the daily and the weekly, watch this week. Maybe we get some fake outs to the downside. Maybe that could be a signal for reversal. But for now, it does look like price action is in favor of the sellers. Let's take a look at dollar yen. Like I just mentioned, we'll take a look at the yen, which actually held its own here against a lot of the different currency pairs in the past week. Now, I am still bullish on this pair, but check this out. So the dollar was really up last week, right? But the dollar yen was sort of flat. And the reason here is because if we go take a look at the DXY, take a mental image, there's the DXY looking fairly strong. Let's look at the JXY. This is the Japanese currency index. Check it out. Kind of also some strength, not really falling apart like some of the other currencies compared to the dollar. So we do see the yen holding its own. We put in this high right there. We gapped up on the start of the week and then sort of faded a little bit. Really going to be dependent on how things react here. We did have this downward channel on the JXY. So watching to see if this either holds or if it's just a fake out and it's ultimately going to come back lower. I am bearish on the yen, so I am looking for the latter there. I'm looking for more downside here and looking to mostly sell this rally so long as it doesn't completely jump higher. If it jumps higher, I'll probably look to pause on that. Very much going to be in response to risk off sentiment. That is probably why you had a little bit of a bid on the yen this past week. We do have a little bit of risk off concerns right now. That is also why we saw a little bit of a bid on gold towards the start of last week, which we will get to gold in just a minute. Let's first do USDJPY here. Talk about some of the levels that I do see. Okay, so 110, 109.8, this range right here seems like a pretty strong support. We could see price, continue. We did get a little bit of a response there. Like I said, some of that JXY strength coming in. The Japanese currency still holding its own against the dollar and against a lot of the other currencies. So really going to depend on risk off sentiment. Towards the end of the week, we did have the S&P 500 selling off a little bit. So check this out real quick. So the S&P 500 sold off towards the end of the week. We had a really good start on Friday, and then towards the end of the day, just absolutely sold off there on the stock market. So if that continues lower, I would probably expect dollar yen to potentially come down with it. Really depends on how people respond with the yen. The yen typically is sort of like the VIX in the sense that it has a pop when things get scary because people rush to push their money into something that is a little bit more quote unquote safe haven-esque, which kind of matches up with the yen. The yen is a currency that is backed by an economy that is fairly stable, fairly steady and slow. It's not as volatile as something like Australia or New Zealand, where they are more in the wind of trade and global health. Because if things are doing well, great, that's good for their trade-based economy. But if things are going poorly, that can be kind of scary. So so for me, dollar yen, I do still think it has upside. I think that we probably want to head back to retest the highs. I've mentioned that recently. I still think that my target of 112 makes a lot of sense if things do want to continue. Now, if things change with risk off, risk on, if things get severely risk off and you see the yen really strengthen, then yeah, we could probably start to see things break and close lower. And if that happens, then I will probably just adjust. But I will say this, for that scenario to happen, we do need to see a serious catalyst. We need to see probably the Japanese stock market come crashing down pretty hard due to the fact that a lot of times the yen and the Nikkei, they kind of have an inverse relationship, meaning that, when the Japanese stock market sells off, you get a lot of people buying back in the yen. So that's sort of like a possible scenario, but I would say a less likely scenario due to the fact that sort of global recovery is still strong overall. So that is my view on the dollar yen. I am bullish on this thing. I think it has potential to rise and mostly looking to fade that jump on the yen right now. So that is my opinion there. Of course, if I take any trades, I will share that inside of the private group. So let's go take a look at gold here. We'll take a look at gold, which also got a pop here in the last week, but then on Friday sold off hard. Really interesting to see that because, again, we're sort of in that risk off concern, right? And so usually you do see gold pop. And so we have seen that rally probably off of the fears around inflation, et cetera. Now we're seeing a little bit of a dip there on Friday. So this is really interesting to me because I mentioned last week in a video that I did that gold, right, was tagging that 200-day SMA and that, the next decisive move could be very big for gold. So to be true to my video, I do think that gold has potential to come down lower. Okay. And the reason for that is, again, we came up to that 200-day moving average. The dollar, however, got very strong and we rejected that 200-day area very strong on the gold market. What that tells me is that institutional traders and bigger, smarter money may be looking to sell into gold, and they may be looking to even buy into the dollar stronger because of maybe something that they see coming around the corner, maybe something that they're predicting for the Fed, maybe that talk of tapering could be coming again. That is sort of a rumor, but every time that the Fed talks about it or Jerome Powell talks about it, he seems very, very hesitant. So it's kind of hard to tell exactly what their upcoming policy is on tapering. But there have been a lot of concerns brought up to the Fed about the need for tapering, the stopping of printing money, essentially, or slowing it down at least. So, if that comes in strong, then you could see gold come really crashing down hard. On the flip side, if inflation concerns rise again, if you think that inflation is here to stay and that problems are going to continue to rise, gold may just be here pulling back before a continuous rise higher. So we will see. We'll have to see how price reacts to it. This price action on the lower time frames for gold was really kind of crazy on Friday. You saw this thing come all the way down here and then just pop really strong and then massive selling came right back in. So that to me shows a lot of rejection for gold right now. But again, we are sitting on a pretty key spot of support here on the 1 hour chart. You've got this level of resistance, right? I mentioned this in the video last week. Price has come back down to that level now. And now the question is, can we hold that or can we break down? If we break through that level, I'd say probably more sell side for gold. And if we hold it and inflation concerns continue to come in, maybe the gold bulls have another day ahead of them. So we will see everything to play out there. Gold is kind of a tricky one right now, in my view, both fundamentally and technically. So I'm sort of on the sidelines with it, just watching it for now. Let's take a look at AUD, USD. We'll take a look at the Aussie, which sold into the close last week. Really, really bearish for the Aussie right now. You can see that support that we had drawn already got nailed. So that support level, we now have to turn into a resistance point. You can see we just cleaned this up a little bit. So we had this big level of support, found demand, and then bam, fell through the floor there at the end of the week. In response to everything going on, I guess people are, like I said, the dollar strength coming in, and a lot of these other crosses against the dollar getting pretty hammered. So I am pretty much on the sidelines with Aussie dollar. I'm not really interested in trading this one at this time, but I do like the idea of dollar strength continuing. So if I was to say anything about the Aussie dollar, I think that this thing has more downside. So can I be wrong about that? Absolutely. So I would say, I'm not here to give you trading signals or anything like that. I'm here to share my thoughts and analysis. And for me, the Aussie dollar formed this higher time frame head and shoulders. We saw a breakdown through this strong level of trend line, and now we just see lots of sell side. I know that Joe Bareka, he is one of our analysts inside of the Discord. He called out Aussie dollar shorts and has been making some good money on that. So congrats to Joe, and congrats to the members who were in his webinars who took a trade as well. With that said, I think Aussie dollar has a lot of strength to the downside right now. And if you scroll out long enough, you'll see, this thing has been in a long-term downtrend. So maybe we see the dollar strength continue and push this thing right on down to, your next levels of support. You do arguably have this kind of level here coming into play. And then you've got a longer term level down here from the September of 2020 levels and October levels here at 0.7. So really talking about a big haircut there on the Aussie dollar. So we will see how these levels play out. If this level breaks this week, that could be huge for the Aussie, because I'd say if that breaks, you have a pretty clean shot down to 0.7. So pretty big stuff there going on for the Aussie dollar. Quick look at the NZD USD as well. NZD USD doing a little bit better, faring a little better. I think that that may be off of the reaction to the recent call outs on NZD. Basically, there was some, I forget the name of the organization, but there was some prediction about NZD rate hikes, more aggressive, more hawkish than even expected. And so that may be propping up the New Zealand dollar. So maybe if we get some further developments on that, maybe you get a little bit more of a pop on the NZD. But for the most part right now, kind of following the Aussie dollar, it is underneath its 200-day moving average. We're not seeing strong buyers yet. So for me, I tend to like to be buying something on the way up rather than just trying to buy something that is getting sold in too hard. So for me right now, when I look at this, I'm waiting for, I'm not super bearish on it, I'm not super bullish on it. I'm just waiting for signs of strength to come back in if I was to buy it. So that's kind of my view on the NZD USD. So yeah, let's see. I do want to also do US oil today, which is not one that I usually do. But Frank had looked at this one a little bit, so I wanted to see how this thing closed last week. So this thing seems to be pulling back. We do have a tentative level here of support. We'll mark this. So for those of you guys who are trading oil or watching oil, oil had a big pullback here this past week. So maybe there's some demand here. I would say that if that holds, obviously we could a pretty clean retest of the high is possible. On the flip side of that, if we break out here to the downside, you may see the next big level come into play, which is 66. So there might be trades either ways. If you get breakouts this week to the downside, maybe you see stuff like this come into play, and you could see the break and retest sort of style of trading. Definitely depends on your style of trading and whether or not you trade something like oil. Let's take a look finally at the pound yen here. So we'll take a look at the pound yen, which had a really crushing week, really just 5 days in a row pretty much of selling. So really strong sell pressure there. I mentioned that I want to be a buyer of the pound yen, but I've got to see it show some demand. And that's exactly why. You can see, I waited on the sidelines, and I'm glad I did, because otherwise I might have been buying into that bleed out that we saw last week. So Pound yen, maybe we see a bounce here. Maybe we see price try and push through off of the lows. But right now, it does seem like price action is bearish, and maybe even looking to retest something like the higher time frame 200-day moving average, which, you know, it's entirely possible. So I think your next level of support here, if you do see this break out this week, could be a move all the way down to 149, which is kind of insane. But you know, when markets get crazy like this, they can totally sell off. I bet you for now that we're probably seeing the first time on the website. We'll go to a1trading.com. We'll go to retail sentiment. I bet you this is actually a lot of people buying the pound yen. Okay, so it's coming back a little bit. We still see retail traders 55% short on the pound yen, but a lot different than what we used to see. If you've been watching my streams for a while, watching my videos, I pointed out that the pound yen for a very long time was, you know, massively shorted by retail traders, like 90% of the time. Retail traders were short on the pound yen. So we are seeing that balance switch a little bit. Probably, you know, going to be interesting to see if that signal completely turns around or if this holds. But like I said, the pound yen, I would imagine that if it keeps going lower, that you'll have retail traders start trying to buy it, in which case that's usually a signal to me that things are truly bearish. When you have retail traders all buying something that's dipping, a lot of times it just really crashes, right? Because it's kind of like, you know, the big money sees that as a potential cash cow. If you've got all these people who are willing to take take the buy trade for your short, that can be a really big danger. So watch for that signal on the website. Anytime you want, you can go to a1trading.com and check that out for yourself. I would like to take a quick look here at the COT report. So I'm going to go to the website and go to COT data. Let's go check out. I would like to see gold last week. So gold, the most recent data, we did see a little bit of buying on gold. You can see there it is. So we had 1 week there and now 2 weeks in a row of buying gold. But again, this is Tuesday's data of last week delivered to us Friday. So it is delayed. So we saw a bit of selling on Friday. So maybe this doesn't look so promising going into next week. We'll have to wait and see. But we are still seeing a little bit of demand on the gold market. What about the dollar? How does the dollar look? So the dollar looks fairly strong. Look at net positions here on the dollar. You've got a large increase there. So continuous buying of the dollar. So that looks very positive for USD bulls. The COT report is backing and showing that there is a lot of demand for the dollar right now. So I like that a lot as a dollar bull myself. Until that changes, you know, I probably will be sticking to my dollar thesis. So let's take a look. Last one I want to talk about is the yen. The yen also got a little bit of a bid here. Check it out. Taking a look at the non-commercials, you've got an increase on yen buying. So a little bit less seemingly than the dollar, but still some buying nonetheless. So interesting stuff there from the COT reports. Again, you can check these out on your own time. Anytime you want, just head over to a1trading.com. And before we go, I do want to remind you guys, if you like my style of trading, if you want to work closer to myself and the rest of our team, we have a staff of people that make our community possible and very thankful to them. If you're not already in the Discord, check it out down below in the description. Join us for 25% off using the promo code that is down below in the description. I believe it is YTVIP. You just plug that in, you get 25% off of the gold membership. So check it out there in the description. Thank you so much for watching today. If you did enjoy, make sure to hit that like button down below, and let's have a great trading week. Happy day to you, and we'll